Hi, welcome to DavChat or Tea with DavChat, whatever. We're talking about Trump violence. We're talking about what happened at the Arlington Cemetery. We are talking about the underreported fact that Trump just lied to criticize the US's withdrawal from Afghanistan and made the wild claim that we didn't lose one person in 18 months. And then they took over, and that disaster, the leaving of Afghanistan, which is, as this Twitter account points out, patently untrue. So he or she has highlighted, actually it's Andrea Gale, so it's she. Good work, Andrea Gale. As you can see from the part one, she's highlighted in the chart below. Not to mention, of course, Trump's culpability for those 13 deaths, because against the Pentagon and the wishes of the Afghan army, people on the ground who knew better, Trump signed a deal with the Taliban, compelling the release of 5,000 Taliban fighters from prison and drew down American forces. So that destabilized the Afghani government's ability to respond to America withdrawing its troops and led to a collapse of that government's response really quickly, or at least was a key factor in it. And Trump, you can gather, did it purposefully in order to weaken his successor at a political level. And I don't want to even abuse the word political in that way, because that's not political. It's worse than Machiavellian. It's sadistic, and it's upselling it to describe it as for political advantage. That's for personal advantage in a political arena. But when you throw people's lives under the bus like that, there's a few Republican presidents who we now know have behaved in that way, have used the lives of American service people as fodder to gain advantage in a political arena. Nixon was working with the American ambassador to China to sabotage peace talks between North Vietnam and South Vietnam, so that his Democratic opponent wouldn't be able to use peace in that war as a credit to him. And that purposeful sabotage of peace talks is a purposeful extension of a war being a factor in the war. Things don't have to be either or. Nixon doesn't have to be personally responsible for extending the entire war. You can still say, if he willfully chose to be a factor in the sabotage of peace talks, telling them don't negotiate with South Vietnam because you can have a better deal once I'm president. It's gambling. It's gambling with a weighted dice in your own favor and against the lives of the people who are serving America in uniform. So anyway, let's look at this table, because this table covers people who lost their lives in Afghanistan. So which years is this? 2020, 317 lost through accidents and 9 via hostile action. 2019, 21 hostile action, 14 in 2018, and 21 in 2017. So this is all in direct contradiction to Trump throwing it out there that no lives were lost under his watch when he was president. And you'll probably be startled by the number of Trump supporters who will speak as if Trump wasn't president in 2020. And even Trump himself has made references to things that happened in 2020 as if he was not the commander-in-chief at that time. And that's a dominance play over time and history and reality to show that it doesn't matter what happens and when and whether he was in charge or not. He doesn't have to admit responsibility, because reality is putty in his hands for himself and for his followers. So if you are one of those people that continue to subscribe to Donald Trump's reality, beware of that breach you're causing for yourself in between you and your relationship with reality, your grip on your own sanity, because for him, that ability to lie and have it be believable is a joy for him to show the power he can wield over your mind. And you could examine, if you've already been a mark for Donald Trump, what factors are present in your worldview that have left you vulnerable to the depredations of this man's Machiavellian manipulations. I don't think he's a well-educated man, but I do believe his first wife, Ivana Trump, who noted in the divorce deposition that Donald, her first husband, kept a book of Hitler's collected speeches, New Order, My New Order, in his bedside cabinet, and would read them, because we can hear the evidence of that, the supporting evidence of that, which is Donald Trump's public and private admiration for strongman figures. We know about the private ones because former General John Kelly, his former chief of staff, has said Trump privately confessed admiring Hitler. Well, not confessed, just was open with that, and that he complained that Hitler enjoyed more loyalty from his generals than Trump he himself did. And John Kelly had to educate Donald Trump that, in fact, Hitler's generals, some of them were involved in attempted assassination of Hitler. So that was an education for Donald Trump. Let us all draw on that education from history to know that, yes, strongmen throughout history have often bent reality to their will, but often received limited advice from their advisors, because people are too scared often to tell the truth to despots. People just tell them what they think the despots want to hear. People told Chairman Mao that his new agricultural techniques of burying the roots really far down so that vegetables like tuberous vegetables like carrots and sweet potatoes and potatoes would grow more if they were buried further down when planted, because they had further to grow to reach the sunlight. They couldn't make it that far and those plants died. There was mass starvation in China because of those policies. People could not tell Chairman Mao because they were scared of the wrath of a despot. And that's the problem. You think, oh yeah, it's so good to have centralized power in one strong father figure, but it's actually not that good. Humanity works pretty well as a cooperative team. Not to say communism is good. Communism gave rise to Chairman Mao. Communism often facilitates the rise of despots because it overpromises and therefore underdelivers. It overpromises this beautiful equal society, but it delivers a highly centralized bureaucracy that, without checks and balances, that very easily lends itself to corruption and the rise of a father figure or just a central, all-powerful figure who controls the narrative. Without checks and balances, you have people who take over state media or the media and spin stories. Stories are very powerful with human nature because we believe each other. We listen to human interest stories. And when you have a central figure telling you some stories, that often has a great deal of sway with people. Jesus knew it. That's why he told parables. And I'm not Christian, but I appreciate the man's technique for building a strong base of support. I'm not going to say I respect Donald Trump building a strong base of support, but if you've talked to or seen those people, their support is often extremely rusted on. So even when they're very angry with Donald Trump for supporting vaccinations, you'll see them say something like, I don't think he should have done that. He had bad advice. He shouldn't do it anymore. But, I'll call over broken glass still to vote for him. They've demonized Trump's political opponents in their heads thanks to the potency of the right-wing media bubble with complicit radio stations. I mean, Rush Limbaugh's gone now, but he had a potently persuasive voice on the radio. There are propaganda stations in the Spanish language field that are preying on people who've escaped from communist regimes. I myself, when I was young, I got operated on. My parents were visiting a communist country, Poland, and I was 7. I contracted appendicitis, and my parents dropped me off at a hospital for observation. They were like, we'll keep her overnight. When my parents came back to see how I was doing in the morning, the hospital told them the operation went well. And that's communism for you. Not quite the same system of checks and balances. They didn't feel they needed to obtain parental consent before operating on me. I was in hospital for 2 weeks without being able to speak the language. I just tell you that because my experience of communism at the tender age of 7 wasn't great. I could see people had these little coupons that they had to obtain groceries, coupons for meat, coupons for vegetables, and that my parents were able to bribe the nurses at the hospital where I was staying at so that they could visit me, because you were only permitted to visit your relative patients for once a week, and they were able to go beyond that by giving the nurses chocolate. Oh, and I believe they gave some doctors as well, chocolate, coffee, and lemons. And that's how they were able to purchase access to see me. So they came through the hospital gardens and met me sitting The nurses told me to go and sit in the baby's ward. There was a balcony, and they told me to sit on the balcony, and then I could see my parents coming towards me through the garden. My mother, who spoke Polish, but I didn't, she taught me the Polish word for pain. Anyway, it's a diversion. The point is, I'd agree with the right that communism is bad. What they don't realize is that a lot of people in the center left, or even just the standard left, agree that we're not historically literate. We agree communism is not a effective way to achieve governance, and in fact is a gateway drug to authoritarianism and despotic behavior that often leads to mass murder, whether it be violent mass murder or the attrition of mass murder via starvation or forced starvation, as Stalin inflicted on the people of Ukraine in the Holodomor. If you haven't heard about it, look it up. It's willful diversion away of agricultural resources from the people of Ukraine in order to starve them into submission to Russian authority. I won't say it's precedent, but I mean, we have the current president of Russia trying to bomb the people of Ukraine and fire on the people of Ukraine into submission now, but at least Ukraine is prepared and they're fighting and people are helping them. Countries around the world are helping them. And President Joe Biden, helped solidify that coalition of support for Ukraine to maintain their integrity as a nation and not be a vassal state of Russia, free to be plundered and have its citizens murdered and pillaged at will. Content warning for that. All right. So yes, do not forget that Donald Trump had definitely casualties under his watch in Afghanistan, as well as a role of a degree of culpability for the actual problems with the pullout as well, in that he drew down the American force in Afghanistan to be too small so that it facilitated the collapse of the Afghan army. All right, no, I don't want notifications. What I want is bookmarks. There we go. All bookmarks. Okay. Oh, no, wait, I have to go. Oh, but just to note also, as bad as the Arlington thing is, it's actually even worse than many people know. What the Trump campaign tried to do is create the appearance that there was a large public ceremony on the anniversary of the Taliban attack that Biden and Harris chose not to go to, but that Trump did attend. So that's a fabricated way to belittle the Biden-Harris campaign, to belittle the Biden-Harris administration. And this is my final note, because this particular bookmark, there it is, is right-wing people who are noting that Trump has been inconsistent about abortion, because right now he's seeing the massive erosion of support from white people concentrated in the hands of white women who fear being denied medical care, who fear living in medical deserts if doctors leave the right-wing states, the Republican-governed states, where doctors fear being put in jail for exercising their Hippocratic oath, for exercising their best idea of how to practice medicine. So this is a Trump supporter saying he could try not commenting on it. That's all he had to do. He didn't have to support it. He didn't have to do anything but shut up about it. And he couldn't even do that. In response to somebody noting they're trying to defend Trump, he always mentions how late-term abortion is barbaric and awful. I mean, people who actually know about these things know that late-term abortion is frequently a medical emergency and a terrible, gut-wrenching decision for women who've willfully carried a pregnancy to term and at the last minute have something go drastically wrong. Not last minute, in the last term. That most abortions are early, and from people who understand that they are not physically, emotionally, or financially prepared to invest in raising a child for 18 years. People who have subscribed to the naturalistic fallacy that everything that happens to you is like God meant it to happen to your body, so you should run with it. They don't believe in family planning, and they put women in danger. So here's Trump saying, I think the 6-week is too short. There has to be more time. Former president says how he'll vote on an abortion rights amendment in Florida 2 hours ago. So he's claiming that he's going to vote no on that because it's too short. It's a state issue, but he's told them we need more weeks and is going to vote for Amendment 4, which allows abortion until birth. All righty then. There you go. He's going to allow abortion until birth, according to him, according to how he says he'll vote. Not that I care how he'll vote. He's one person in Florida. I just care that he's posturing to voters that he's going to vote no on that Florida vote, because he's posturing that he's okay with some abortion in order to reassure the white Republican-leaning female voters that he wants to win back. And it's not likely to be true because Trump has a coalition of people he's beholden to for their support, including anti-abortion forced birth ideologues that are inherently dangerous to the health and safety of American women. That's all from me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your time. And talk to you soon. Bye.